Hey there. Ready for a deep dive into something I know you're passionate about? We're talking vitality in the workplace, especially how it works here in the Netherlands.
Always a fascinating topic. And it looks like we've got a lot to dig into with this September issue of ocq-magazine, issue 41.
It's a good one. Vital ondernemen. Right up your alley, right? And they're using AI throughout the issue, which is interesting. But hold that thought, because this article on quotas caught my eye.
Yes. Quota voor vrouwen werken, dus voor ze verder door quotas for women work, so let's continue them.
Exactly. By Nancy Cabaltgroot. It's about how the Netherlands had a record year for women on corporate boards, all thanks to mandatory quotas.
It's a significant achievement. And Cabaltgroot frames it so well by drawing this parallel to the 1921 quota on female postal workers.
Oh, really? I don't know that story.
Well, back then, it was about limiting women to only 20% of the postal workforce. So to see how the conversation has shifted to using quotas as a tool for progress a century later, it's fascinating.
Wow, I had no idea. But I could already hear some people pushing back, right? Like, won't this force companies to lower their standards?
Right, a common concern. But Cabaltgroot addresses this head-on. She points to research like this study by the Social and Economic Council showing no evidence of quality loss in companies with quotas.
Interesting. So it's not a trade-off. It's actually...
It's potentially better. Diverse leadership often leads to improved company performance. It's about bringing more perspectives to the table. And that's precisely why she argues for extending these mandatory quotas beyond just corporate boards.
Yeah, make it the norm everywhere.
Exactly, to all levels of leadership.
It's like a rising tide lifts all boats. Okay, so beyond quotas, this issue of OCQ is tackling this big idea of vitality. They've got these bold section titles, these visual icons.
It's quite cleverly designed, actually.
Like they're guiding you through a physical space or something.
It mirrors the holistic approach they're advocating for when it comes to well-being.
And they're saying it's more than just going for a run, right? It's physical, mental, social, emotional, even spiritual well-being.
It's about feeling truly alive and energized in all aspects of life.
Okay, that sounds great. But I bet some people are thinking, how does that translate to a more successful work life?
And they answer that, too. They've got this whole section on the benefits, increased motivation, less stress, better work-life balance, even higher productivity and creativity.
Okay, now I'm listening. And this is where it gets really interesting. They bring in this expert, Kiki Kemp.
Yes, a pain expert and the owner of Carinetixis. I've read some of her work.
Her energy is contagious.
Mm-hmm.
And her whole thing is about this preventative approach to well-being at work, like partnering with local businesses for things like healthy meals and ergonomic workstations.
She's all about small changes, big impact.
Kleine Anpassungen maken al een groot verschil. I love that.
It's about taking those little steps that add up over time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, but how does her focus on things like ergonomics connect to this idea that vitality is multifaceted? It seems very physical.
That's a great point, and it highlights how Kemp's approach isn't just physical. She emphasizes the connection between our physical and mental states. You know, how addressing one can positively impact the other.
It's all connected. Speaking of connections, there's this article about leaders and how they impact the workplace. They used an AI-generated image, by the way.
I saw that. It's pretty striking.
Like they're really embracing the future. But the article itself is about how crucial leaders are for creating a culture of vitality.
Absolutely. They're the ones setting the tone.
Yeah.
And they gave that example of Peter, the CFO, who completely transformed his lifestyle.
Oh, yeah. And that rippled out to the whole company. It's like, be the change you want to see. Workplace edition.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Actions speak louder than words, especially when it comes from leadership.
So true. And speaking of actions in the future, we should probably dive into OCQ's use of AI a bit more, because it's pretty mind-blowing.
I'm quite curious about it myself.
They have these little vignettes in each article to show how much AI was involved.
A peek behind the curtain.
I know. Like, how much is AI? How much is human? It's wild.
It really makes you think about where things are headed.
And whether Kiki Kemp would approve.
I have a feeling she'd be open to it. She seems like an embrace new ideas kind of person.
That's a good point. Okay, but let's get practical for a moment. This next article is all about making the business case for vitality. You know, how do you actually convince a company to invest in this stuff?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it sounds like ocq-magazine is tackling it head-on. It is a big question. And this article, so presenteer ik als HR manager de voordelen van vitaliteit aan de directie, is like a roadmap for HR professionals who are trying to get buy-in. They start by acknowledging the challenges.
Which are? Let's hear them.
Well, you've got the whole short-term focus that so many companies get stuck in, right? Then there's the age-old problem of actually measuring the return on investment for anything related to well-being.
It's not always as simple as tracking sales figures, is it?
Exactly. And then, of course, there's the perception that vitality initiatives are just, well, the article calls it an HR feastie.
HR feastie? What's that all about?
Literally, it translates to HR party. But it's meant to be sarcastic, like, oh, here comes HR with another fun program.
I get it. Like it's not real work. I've
Yeah.
definitely encountered that attitude.
Right. And to combat that, the article says data. Data is your friend.
Okay, so less about feelings, more about facts and figures. I like it.
Exactly. Quantify those benefits. Instead of just saying vitality is good, point to those reduced absenteeism rates, those improved retention numbers.
Show them the money.
Yes. They even cited a study that found vital employees can be up to 21% more productive.
Whoa. Okay, now that's impressive. But I imagine it's not just about hitting them with spreadsheets.
You're right. While data is super important, the article also emphasizes the importance of combining those numbers with genuine dialogue, actually talking to employees, understanding their needs, their challenges.
Because ultimately we're talking about people, not just numbers on a balance sheet. It's about creating a culture where people feel valued.
Absolutely. A place where well-being isn't just encouraged, it's ingrained in the way things are done. And that reminded me of something we discussed earlier about Kiki Kemp's approach to well-being.
All about that holistic approach, right?
Sure.
Taking care of the whole person.
Exactly. And in her other articles, she goes deeper into some really interesting and specific aspects of this.
Like what?
Well, there's one about the power of massage.
Oh, yeah. I was curious about that one.
It's fascinating. She talks about how it's not just about relieving muscle tension.
Which is what I always thought it was for.
Right. But she goes into the mental and emotional benefits too. Reducing stress, improving concentration, even getting better sleep.
So it's like a domino effect of goodness.
Exactly. And it all ties back to that idea of vitality being multifaceted.
Right. It's so easy to fall into the trap of thinking workplace wellness just means gym memberships and healthy snacks in the break room.
Which, don't get me wrong, those are great. But it's about so much more than that.
It's about creating an environment where people feel supported and empowered to take care of themselves in all aspects of their lives.
Exactly. And that takes more than just offering a yoga class or two. It takes a real cultural shift.
And that's where leadership comes in again, doesn't it? Like that article about the CFO who transformed his lifestyle.
Peter, yes. That was such a powerful example of how a leader's actions can have this ripple effect throughout an entire organization.
People pay attention to what their leaders do, not just what they say. And if they see their boss prioritizing their well-being.
It gives them permission to do the same.
Exactly. And speaking of leaders embracing new approaches, remember OCQ's use of AI in this issue? We keep coming back to that.
How can we not? It's like a whole other layer to this conversation about the future of work.
I know. And those little vignettes they used throughout the issue, showing how much AI was involved in each article.
I find them surprisingly charming.
Me too. And it's refreshing, that level of transparency.
It really speaks to this idea of humans and technology working together, which I think is ultimately what this whole vitality in the workplace thing is all about.
Finding that balance, right? Technology can be amazing, but it shouldn't come at the expense of our well-being.
Couldn't agree more. It's about using these tools to enhance our lives, not complicate them.
You know, one thing that struck me about those Kiki Kemp articles is that it's clear she's not just talking the talk, she's walking the walk.
Oh, absolutely. That
Yeah.
interview with her where she talks about her own journey as a pain expert and an entrepreneur, it's really inspiring.
Talk about a deep dive within our deep dive. And it sounds like she's got big plans for the future. Workshops, an ebook, even retreats.
She's definitely passionate about sharing this message, and I love that little nugget of advice she gives at the end. Stay in motion, keep learning, and be kind to yourself.
So simple, but so powerful.
Right. It's a good reminder for all of us, no matter where we are in our journey. And speaking of journeys, that OCQ book recommendation caught my eye.
Just Fall Forward by Dolph Coase. Such a good book. I read it last year, and it really resonated with me.
I haven't read it yet, but it sounds fascinating. The whole idea of ditching the corporate grind to pursue your purpose.
Right. It's like if you're going to pour your energy into something, it better be something you care about.
Otherwise, what's the point? You're just setting yourself up for burnout.
Exactly. And this issue of OCQ is all about avoiding that, isn't it? Creating a work life that energizes you, not drains you.
A work life that aligns with your values.
Yes. And speaking of energizing, did you see the information about National Vitality Week?
I did. How cool is that? A whole week dedicated to well-being.
The theme this year is the energy of vitology.
I love it. Have you been to one of the events before?
I haven't, but I'm thinking about checking out the kickoff event in Utrecht this year.
Oh, nice. I heard it's supposed to be really good. And I love that they encourage people to organize their own smaller events throughout the week.
It's about creating a movement.
Yeah.
Right. Getting people talking about well-being, inspiring each other.
Exactly. Because sometimes all it takes is that little spark to ignite something bigger.
So true. And speaking of sparks, that ad for the Taoistisch Gesundheitsinstitute, that definitely sparked something in me.
I know. Talk about an unconventional approach to well-being.
Their claim of reducing sick leave to just 2 months using their methods, it's pretty bold.
It definitely makes you think. Are we overlooking something in our Western approach?
Right. Maybe we need to be more open to these alternative practices.
Or at least open to exploring them. There's always something new to learn.
That's the beauty of a deep dive like this, isn't it? It challenges our assumptions and pushes us to think outside the box.
And this deep dive certainly has done that. We've gone from the boardroom to the massage table, from data analysis to ancient practices.
It's been quite a journey, but I think it all comes back to this. Creating a truly vital workplace is an ongoing process.
It's not a destination, it's a direction.
Perfectly said. Well, on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into this month's OCQ magazine.
A very insightful dive it was.
I hope you found it as stimulating as we did. And remember, whether you're embracing the latest technology or exploring ancient wisdom, the key is to find what works for you and create a work life that truly energizes you.
Here.
Until next time, stay curious.